Maria Chavez is my hero. She is basically the greatest person you could possibly ever imagine to work with on anything. We've been working together on BioSummit for 4 years now, and Maria is the ultimate force of nature. She has somehow managed. It feels like there's only one of her, but there's actually at least 5 or 6 of her. I think anybody that's on the organizing team knows exactly what I'm talking about. But Maria is just such a force, is able to do so many things so well and so effectively. And so including moderate and MC, which is just one of the talents that she has amongst a myriad of incredible skills. So please join me in welcoming Maria Chavez, who's going to lead us into global collaborations in the fantastic panel we have next. So everybody, let's give some love and some shouts and some emoji love for Maria Chavez.
All right, well, that's a little embarrassing of an intro. I am an overcommitter. I'm not sure that's something anyone should aspire to be, but I also take a big interest in a lot of things, and one of my biggest interests for a long time has been global collaboration. So I'm really excited about this panel and about this topic, because this is the reason we started BioSummit, really, was to get things going and really harness our global collaborations. I'm actually really glad we started right after Hello World, because that is what global collaborations is about. I mean, I keep waving at people at the Hello World, even though it's in a video, because I'm so excited to see everybody's voices. But let's go ahead and get this started today. We want to talk about how we start global collaborations, and we have a really, really amazing representation of different global collaborations in our community here, and we're going to talk to all of them. I'll introduce them, and then we'll go one by one. We're going to give them a chance to tell us about the projects they're working on, and then we're going to talk a little bit and do some Q&A. So let's get started with a longtime member of our BioSummit family, Thomas Landrain. I almost feel like, you don't need an introduction. You've been with Jogel. You've got like a 2-hour block this afternoon. So Thomas, why don't you tell us where in the world are you joining us from? And tell us a little bit about Jogel. And then after you, we will have our other Thomas join us, Thomas Mboa from Cameroon. If you're in Cameroon, I'm never quite sure where in the world you're located, because you're all over the place too. And we had Nadine this morning from the Mboa lab, but we'll hear from Thomas Mboa himself. After that, we'll go to Daniel Dominguez from AllBiotech and hear about what's happening in Latin America and this amazing organization there. And then how could we have BioSummit without Jenny Molloy? Jenny and all the work she's doing around the world inspires me so much. I think that, her projects are just a foundation for things that we need to make other projects go. So Jenny's going to talk to us about what she's doing with the Open Bioeconomy Lab and ReClone. So let's kick things off with Thomas Landrain. So you'll have 5 minutes to tell us about what you're up to and what Jogel is, all right?
Sounds great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. First of all, I'm so excited to be here. This is my fourth BioSummit, and even though the experience is obviously different, it's just fantastic to be, again with all of you, and you have this family feeling that that I crave for every time I go back to the BioSummit. And so I'm really happy that you made it happen. Congratulations to the whole team. It was such a challenge. So congrats for that. So without further ado, the thing this year was a bit special, right? So we faced a huge pandemic, and I've been part of this community for more than 10 years now. And it was always about trying to solve, problem of the world. We were always inspired by what brought us to the DIY bio community, to the bioeconomy community, is because we wanted to, sure, have fun with biology, but also solve actual problems. In ways that we couldn't do because we, for example, some people didn't have access to an academic laboratory. Some other, didn't want to become a full-time startups, like an entrepreneur. And so, there is this idea that if you want to solve a problem, you either have to be a researcher or you need to be an entrepreneur or some kind of a researcher in a private laboratory or in a company. And that somehow restricts a lot the type of programs you can work on. Because you have so many constraints as a researcher. For example, you need to take care of your own career. You cannot work with whoever you want. You have to follow some kind of path. If you're building a startup, you have to focus on problems where you have a working business model. So it's really hard, to be able to explore problems such as, how do we solve more issues regarding refugees, for example, or even actually some local problems related to climate change. So that's why we have like communities, and communities have been there to fill the holes, in between, and it's been fantastic. Communities are yet powerful, are very powerful, but they're not super stable, and they're not very well, helped or supported by institutions. And so the idea, since I've been working with you all in this community, was always, as you've said it, Maria, how do we succeed at making our global collaboration happen? And so it's been, I've at first, before Drogo, I was working on La Paillasse, which is a biohackerspace in Paris. And it's been a fantastic experience. But as any biohackerspace, you have this feeling that it's foremost for the local community, for the local people. And so it becomes very hard, even though we meet, with the BioSummit, or we have also local events, we have this motivation to work together. But once we go back to our places, it becomes actually harder. And so far, we never actually really truly succeeded in creating a global collaboration in DIY Bio, even though we tried many times. And so we learned on the way. And I think that one thing that really helped us bring us all together was this pandemic. And for the first time, I think that the DIY Bio, the biohacking community, had a purpose that was speaking to the world. We had in the past so many incredible projects, and I'm not going to name them here, but I'm not saying that for the first time DIY Bio is interesting. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that for the first time, we have this occasion where not only members of this community, but people outside this community could finally share the same interest, creating alternatives to what institutions are building, because we're not happy with what institutions are proposing us. And so in that context, Drogo has been, and I'm very happy that we had, I think, somehow the right vision at the beginning, but has been a very useful tool to make this happen. And so the vision behind Drogo was, we need a framework. We need to build basically a new kind of institution that can really work with communities, and to bring them together and support them in a neutral way. So that's, it's not about who is going, what biohackerspace is going to get there first. It's really about how we're going to build the best project ever that is going to be replicated as many times as possible, and we'll be happy that we had an impact. And so Drogo has launched the Open COVID-19 initiative back in February. It really started as a call to this community, to the biohacking community. At the time, we didn't have any diagnostic tests in the, at least in France, and we were facing a big wave. The wave was not there yet that much in the US, but in France, in Italy back at the time, it was very strong. In France, it's getting there, but we had no idea what was the status. And so I made a call to the DIY Bio mailing list, like, who's interested, to build a diagnostic test that is open source and low cost, and had a few answers. We made our first call, I believe, at the end of February, or maybe even on the 1st of March. And out of the 10 people that were there, grew a fantastic community interested by this approach. The confinement helped us also bringing more people, as we had more people that didn't have anything to do. And so out of 10 people became such a marvelous community of more than 1,000 people in less than a month. And then now, since February, there are more than 4,000 people that join us on Drogo, and we have more than 100 active projects in development. It's been completely overwhelming, but I think that this is a beautiful proof of concept that open community science not only works, but is actually efficient and scalable. And end of the year.
Thank you so much, Tomas. I know that we're going to be hearing so much about Jogl, but it has really been amazing to see that so much of the community was able to come together so quickly. You know, Jogl has existed for a while before now, but this year it really galvanized the community and gave it a platform to gather on around this idea of COVID. So it's just been really, really exciting. So thank you so much. For something slightly different, let's go to Tomas Mboa. And Tomas, let's see, let's get you spotlighted. So Tomas Mboa was one of our fellows from last year. And we are really excited to have him back. So do we still have Tomas on the call?
Yes.
There we are. Where in the world are you today?
I'm in Canada.
See, I was wondering if you were in Canada right now. So tell us a little bit about your adventures getting the Mboa Lab going and what's going on at the Mboa Lab. And you have 5 minutes.
Okay, so I talk about the Mboa Lab and Africa Osh because basically that is what I prepare for. So first of all, thank you for the invitation. And if I'm here, if I want to discuss with all the community, the bio community, just because I'm happy with what happened to our community in Africa since, like I can say 2016, in terms of collaboration, in terms of project, in terms of everything that you want. And the short story of Africa Osh is during the first Ghost gathering in Chile, I meet George Appiah, and George Appiah from Kumasi Hive in Ghana. And we were talking about the good way for Africa to take advantage of open science, because at this time we are talking a lot about open science, the 4EA, and see how we can develop our continent. And we decide to organize an African gathering to see how we can better talk about this topic from our different perspectives, the reality we know. And that is how we organized the first gathering in Ghana in 2018. I guess David, Thomas Landrain attend the event, and Jenny Molloy, many people attend the event. It was so interesting. And the topic we are talking about during such event are, of course, open citizen science, open education, biotechnology, scholarly communication, research, open education, and of course, COVID-19. It's a kind of annual event where we can do conference, and where we used to do conference, we used to do workshops and a lot of on conference too. So the first event took place in Ghana, the second in Tanzania. This year we were supposed to host the third one in Cameroon, but due to COVID-19, we are still waiting, hoping that we can do it at the beginning next year in Cameroon too. So that is the short story of Africa Osh. And actively at the Mboa Lab, we are working also in terms, we are doing a lot of molecular biotechnology with collaborators around the world, and mostly with Jenny Molloy, with who we are producing enzyme locally in Cameroon. Basically, that is what we are doing. And all what we are doing now is a lot of collaboration we succeed to secure during even like the MIT Bio Summit, because I'm joining the MIT Bio Summit since the beginning, the first, yes, and it's something very important, very helpful for all of us. I am sure that a lot of people across Africa got a lot of collaboration through the MIT Bio Summit, and that is how, and that is why you can see a lot of things happening on ground in Africa right now. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much. If those of you who don't know, we are going to be having our regionals this afternoon. I'm really excited about the Africa regional. You know, the first group that's been having big regional meetings has been Africa OSH for the science community. And so Africa OSH has been amazing to watch you guys do what you do. I think, you know, your region needs it. Your region needs to have those ties together. Because independently, it's just too hard to just be satellites unconnected. So let's go ahead and introduce Daniel Dominguez. So Daniel is a BioSummit alum. And Daniel, tell us where in the world you were calling in from, and tell us about AllBiotech and the adventures of tying together the Latin American community.
Hi, Maria. Thank you for the introduction, and thanks everyone for the invitation. I mean, it's amazing always to be here with you on distance, but I mean, it's the same because it is all about the people. I'm saying hello from Mexico City this time, from the better place to have tacos in the world, in my humble opinion. As I think I'm an authority in tacos. So yeah, hello everyone. Congratulations for the organization. I mean, it's amazing. So I will tell you a little bit about our work at AllBiotech. As you may have noticed in the past BioSummit, we are really enthusiastic people, and we are also party people, as Thelma said. And well, we really want to create a change for our region with biotechnology, with science, with technology. And I will share with you some slides. Please let me know if you can see them. I hate because I won't be able to see your faces, but no problem. You can see the slides, right? Perfect. And I see your faces actually. So in AllBiotech, we're trying to train the next generation of scientists for the global bioeconomy and for the Latin American bioeconomy. I will show you this presentation in Spanish and Portuguese, so just so you can notice the similarities between two languages. We share in Latin America something very special, that we just have two languages, mainstream languages, Spanish and Portuguese. But we also have this language barrier between our countries, between Brazil and the rest of Latin America. So this has been a challenge, a tough challenge for us. And yeah, why Latin America? Why AllBiotech? Because our countries share a lot of strong ties. We face similar problems in terms of the horrible things that you may know, corruption, horrible politics, insecurity, drug trafficking, and all that horrible stuff. But we also share really good stuff. We have awesome food. We have a tremendous biological diversity. We have a tremendous cultural diversity and a vast history that really ties our countries together. So based on that, we started to question why biotechnology. And we firmly believe, as Thomas and Jogel have been really pushing, that biotechnology can be a key driver to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals proposed by the UN at the 2030 agenda, at least directly to address 11 of these 17 goals. And our question is, okay, biotechnology is necessary. We do not have to convince you. We do not have to convince all the people in AllBiotech. But how can we transform Latin America into a powerhouse for biotechnology, considering that we face a lot of problems, but we really want to solve them because we are really tired of waiting something to happen, of waiting someone to come and solve our problems. I think we have the necessary talent to overcome this. And yeah, we're pretty convinced. So AllBiotech is a non-profit organization aiming to promote the development of biotechnology in the region and also to promote the bioeconomy as a model for sustainable development in Latin America. Our vision is to be a creator of leaders for biotechnology because we want to have more scientists, but not just scientists. We need scientists that are also leaders outside the lab to create an impact and to take the benefits of science to society in several ways. I mean, entrepreneurship, science communication, social impact. I mean, biotechnology leaders with social perspective. And our mission is just that, is to train the new generation of STEM professionals leading, capable to transform Latin America with biotechnology and life sciences. Our main axes are educate, to train them, to give them the necessary skills to lead, to empower and inspire them to become change makers, and to connect them, because I firmly believe that communities are really important for us, and we need to cooperate and collaborate internationally and embrace this amazing diversity in our region. So we organized the AllBiotech Summit that gathers together 100 of the most promising young leaders. We actually have some of them here in the audience to discuss what are the challenges for biotechnology and how can we create and consolidate this life science ecosystem. We have organized 2 summits, the first one in Chile in 2017 and the second one in Mexico. And actually, I'm very happy to be here because we've learned a lot of global community by BioSummit in terms of how to build this community, and we've been growing actually the same time. Some weeks after the first BioSummit, we had our very first AllBiotech Summit. And right now we have more than 300 young leaders across all the region. We just lack people in Cuba, but we just have people from all over the region. Most of them are students right now, undergrad students. We also have researchers. We also have industry professionals. And yeah, that's our community. I don't want to take more time, just to show you this picture, because at the end, as I told you, it's all about the people. It doesn't matter that we cannot be together right now, because nothing can stop us, and especially this stupid pandemic.
Yeah, this pandemic is giving us challenges globally, and the best way to confront that is with our communities. So thank you a lot, Daniel. I think we have a lot to learn from you about tying regions together and how we can get those regional ties a lot stronger. But next, I am super excited to bring Jenny Molloy here. Jenny is amazing. So I am a professional Zoom meeting attender. Jenny is all around the world. I never even know what country Jenny is in. I don't know that she's traveling so much now with COVID, but her work takes her all over the place. She's in the field deploying so many exciting things, because one of the key things we know is, especially in the developing world, getting labs started is very difficult because of lack of equipment, but also lack of reagents. And that's something her group has been working on, and it's amazing. So Jenny, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you've been up to, but Open Bioeconomy, is it rebranded as ReClone now, or how that all?
Yes, well, thank you for the excellent introduction, Maria. So yeah, there are some brands. I'm going to present some slides so that they're not so confusing. Yeah, happy to be here, everybody, and thanks to Thomas, Daniel, and Tomas for the fantastic kind of lead up, because I think I'm just going to reiterate quite a few points that they made. So Yeah, and really it's fantastic to be in the global collaborations section because we, in my group, the Open Bioeconomy Lab, which is my research group at the University of Cambridge, it's something that we do try and foster. I think we're always learning new ways of going about it. And so, you know, the people that participate in this meeting are always inspirational in terms of how to do better and always try and improve. But I'll give a few examples of what we're doing, talking about a story of DNA. So hopefully I can share my screen and take you into that. So here, great. Okay, perfect. So I've been for the last, I guess, nearly 3 years now, actually, a fellow of the Shuttleworth Foundation, who very kindly supported me with a kind of problem that I took to them, which is exactly as Maria said, that, you know, for many of the international collaborators and groups that I was working with, equipment is one challenge, reagents is another, and particularly enzymes are really problematic for a lot of biologists, particularly in developing countries, but as we know, also in resource-constrained labs, in universities and community labs in education. And so we set about to try and change that. And so I'll just tell you a brief story of the last sort of 2.5 years of what we've been trying to do. So the question was really like, I know that biology is a key part of the future of sustainable manufacturing. And how can we ensure that that manufacturing is for the many and not the few? And so my work really focuses in on the manufacturing piece, which has been important as we come through this COVID pandemic. So I'll come back to you later, kind of our thinking around that and what we've ended up doing. But I think, you know, trying to solve this problem, it's a big problem. It requires technology, it requires social organizing, it requires good governance, and it requires pragmatic action. I think it was referred to earlier, like as a community, there's been a huge amount of work in producing materials, producing designs, producing lots of stuff, and it's that transition from having, you know, a design in GitHub or kind of an idea to actually getting it out into the real world that's really hard to do. So I don't think we've cracked it yet, but we've been trying to really focus in on that pragmatic aspect. And so in terms of solving the enzyme reagent problem, a key thing that we felt was missing was the DNA. So how do we build the technology for people to actually express these enzymes? And so through both my research group and a whole international network of collaborators who are too many to name, so I just haven't done them all. We've been building the open enzyme collection out for the last couple of years. So this is a kind of hand selected bunch of DNA parts that you can assemble into useful expression cassettes for enzymes. We've got over 60 enzymes in there right now. We also have useful things like reporters, so 31 open source reporters, chromoproteins, fluorescent proteins, enzymatic reporters, other bits like different tags if you want to do affinity purification of your enzymes, and other kind of, you know, technical regulatory parts, which I won't get into too much. But basically this now exists. It was designed by Open Bioeconomy Lab and many collaborators. It was synthesized by FreeGenes at Stanford. It's distributed under an open material transfer agreement, and we screened all of the IP before we put stuff in there. So we can't be 100% sure. I am not a lawyer, but we're fairly sure that you're clear to use all of this stuff for whatever you want to do with it, including building companies and using it commercially as well. And the material transfer agreement does not prohibit you from doing that. And we felt that was really key, particularly if we want to underpin a bioeconomy and not a solely non-commercial research or education project. So this is all now available. We've got a sandbox of nearly 200 elements that you can recombine, and as of the end of the month, we'll have actually some pre-assembled expression cassettes focused around COVID diagnostics or other diagnostics research that might be useful to you. So if you don't have the time or inclination to kind of build these things up from scratch, we're about to launch a ready-to-go collection. We're just getting it through the final stages now. And so, yeah, it's available from FreeGenes, it's open source, and it's literally free. So as you can see, $0. So head on over to stanford.freegenes.org if you want that. It currently comes in 2 parts for open enzymes. Open reporters is a separate collection. So if you just want some fun colors in your lab, go for that one. And we also have the research and diagnostics collection coming as well. So I'm aware that I only have about a minute left. So what did we do with that collection? Starting with the technology, well, we piloted a way to make it available and sustainable. And you know, Thomas has already mentioned this, we heard from Nadine earlier, but we piloted in Mboa Lab, Cameroon, training local scientists, building hardware, setting up the lab, producing enzymes, and producing a product that you'll now can buy online. So if you head over to beneficial.bio, which is our kind of company arm. You can go and find those things. You can only buy it if you're in Cameroon at the minute, but we're aiming to spread out. And we have now been, the team in Cameroon have been selling products and delivering to local universities. And we've cut down the time from kind of order placed to receiving items. I think our best is just over 24 hours, but under 3 days compared to what before was weeks for scientists to wait to have enzymes on their lab bench. So that's what we're doing in terms of how we scale out, and we are seeking partners for that. ReClone is an initiative which was sort of seeded by us, but is basically how do we share all the protocols for making those enzymes and moving towards local manufacture for diagnostics. We're going step by step with this. So it's still a very nascent community, but if you're interested, head on over to reclone.org and join the forum there. And the whole idea there is to share specifically around the manufacturing protocols. For in the first instance, the needs for diagnosing COVID-19, but we hope it will be a longer running initiative. And we have groups manufacturing in Latin America and Africa enzymes using kind of protocols, collaborations that they've made on ReClone at the moment. But we don't have, we're still in the process of getting the results in. So I haven't got a lot to present on this right now. Hopefully next year, there'll be a much bigger map and kind of things that have been happening. And so extremely briefly, what we've learned: people are key, the technology is second. Like if the people are not in place and the organizing isn't done, it kind of doesn't matter how good your technology is for the work that we do. Coordination is absolutely invaluable. And I think Joggle and Thomas have really shown the way in how to do this with kind of great onboarding for people, really just making it easy to get involved. We have not cracked that. So I'm the first to admit that we definitely need to improve in that regard. Patience, empathy, and effort. Global collaborations are hard. Technology breaks down. We lost contact with our collaborators in Ethiopia for 3 months, 3 weeks even, because Ethiopia turned the internet off. There are challenges that arise, and sort of being adaptable and patient is really key. Knowing your unique value add. So in our global collaboration, we have focused on the manufacturing steps of how do you go from having the enzymes to kind of producing them. We haven't focused on producing diagnostics because there are so many people that are much better at that than we are, including people in this community. And so I really see our unique value add as kind of supporting that effort by providing materials and by providing the kind of the protocols to actually do this local manufacturing piece. And yeah, we've got so far to go. So if anyone wants to assist in any of these efforts, we do need you. And yeah, feel free to email me, contact me via Slack, however, because I'd be delighted to have more people from this amazing community involved.
All right, well, thank you. How excited are we about global collaborations now? Let's give some snaps for everybody before we start having some conversations and get kind of a little bit ongoing conversation on some of these issues here. I think that what everybody's doing are pieces of a larger puzzle. And I'm really excited to, talk about this for the next half an hour. But I have got some questions for each one of you. So for Thomas Landrain, this has been a crazy year for Joggle. What do you think was the biggest challenge for you about scaling up Joggle so quickly? And really going from what was almost like an alpha beta prototype of the Joggle platform to suddenly, hey, we've got thousands of people on it collaborating and funding sources, et cetera. What was your biggest challenge in that scale up, do you think, resource-wise?
It's a very touchy question because it's been really challenging. It's been challenging as a team, as an organization, as an individual. It's been a really challenging time. And I think never in my life I had to experience such a massive speed of growth and actually wish this to nobody because it's inhumane. So basically, just to give you a sense, we had to onboard at the peak of the pandemic more than 250 people a day. And so the platform was not ready. As you said, we've been online for a year. I mean, when the pandemic started, it has been 6 months basically, and so the servers crashed like 3 or 4 times, and the whole the protocols for us to manage such a community were not ready to. We were just an underground organization trying a few things, experimenting, on a small community, and we were not really actually to go full live, fully live. And but we did it, and So the main challenge was really to crack the good principles. Like how do we write processes that actually work? And I have to say that we have a great team, but our team was not enough. And so we worked a lot with the community itself. We had so many individuals that joined work groups and worked with us on trying to just make the processes better. And I mean, that was fantastic. I think one of the most beautiful aspects, of Open COVID-19 and what's going on in Drogo is that the community is really, hands-on. And so, it's a non-profit, it's an open source platform, but not only the code is open, really the processes are open. And so when we've put in place the open peer reviewing system, we also created it with the community. The community itself is in charge of reviewing the projects for the micro grants. So we don't have a say in who's getting funded or not, and that's a huge relief actually. So yeah, it's been yeah, I would say like somehow it's kind of like the summary for us. Yeah, of the difficulties, but I could go on like forever.
Yeah. I mean that's it. Scale up is hard, but I think that the big thing is it's not necessarily the technical scale ups of web servers crashing. Those are difficult. It's having patience with the process and building the community. Day one, Marshall took us through the snowflake model of leadership, that you need to be able to empower people with the leadership skills to take ownership of things and run with it, because we can't all do everything, and I will try not to, but we all need to learn to do that. And so Daniel, for your region, for AllBiotech, how is AllBiotech helping with what's happening with COVID and your planning for events, et cetera, and what challenges has this year given trying to grow over the last several years this large Latin American region, which needs you guys? Because I think Latin America is challenged in that you guys are also a little bit of satellites in your countries, and so tying together a big region is important.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I mean, the first challenge, I mean, it could be obvious, but we needed to postpone our third summit because we really want the summit to go like physical, like in the normal fashion. But right now we're facing other challenges because back in April, I used to say that if the pandemic was a problem right now in October, November, I mean, we probably don't need to worry about our summit. We would have a lot of more problems. And it keeps being a problem here. And it's worse than ever in many countries. In Brazil, they have a total chaos with the pandemic. Here in Mexico, we're still in the first wave. We have several jokes about that you cannot enter into the second wave of infections if you don't get out of the first one. And yeah, I think it's a multifactorial problem, but we have been trying to engage in mainly two things: empowering leaders to come up with solutions, to go out their labs, and to propose these solutions for the pandemic. I mean, we do not have enough capacity to test. We do not have enough capacity to develop vaccines, but we do have talent, and we want to empower people to become the real leaders, to become the change makers, because as you told, we cannot do everything, and we cannot tell people what to do. So we need to build this strong network of leaders and change makers. And on the other hand, we've been trying to promote science communication because we have had a lot of problems with communication. I don't know if you've heard, maybe Linda can tell you a little bit more about this, but people think that chlorine dioxide, dioxide of chloro, can help you with the disease. and it's really dangerous. But some of the congresses in Ecuador, in Bolivia, in Paraguay, keep pushing public policies to promote this substance, and we cannot allow that to happen. So we need also to empower people, not just to be scientist leaders, but also that everyone should be a science communicator right now. And yeah, I think this is the way, because as I told you, this is all about the people, and we need to worry about the people first, and then we can build confidence to go out and tell the world what is the importance of biotechnology and why we should put this as a priority for our countries.
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of things, and a lot of things we're talking about today. There is a whole science communication track, because I have been worried about the spread of science miscommunication, and it's something I've done professionally as part of my job. I spent several years professionally promoting stem cell research and battling the myths around stem cell research about 10 years ago, and going out in the field and seeing how much misinformation and myths everyone has. And it's not necessarily because it's even religious indoctrination. There's just these pervasive cultural myths that are growing. And with the growth of the internet, the growth of these myths and this misinformation is growing. And the only way we combat it is grassroots work by scientists, citizen scientists on the ground. And this year has shown us it's vital. And if we're going to combat COVID, if we're going to combat future pandemics, if we're going to combat climate change, scientists have to be part of the conversation. So I think that's really, really big. All right, so let's switch things up a little bit. Thomas Mboa, so Africa Osh, you guys are tying together a continent. You guys have the largest continent, so many countries, so many languages. So, you know, that's an advantage that, you know, AllBiotech has. They've got, you know, a lot of indigenous languages throughout Latin America, but in general, most people can speak Spanish as one of their languages, or Portuguese. How many languages do we have across Africa? I know Mando Badiki told me at one point, but it was so many, I was overwhelmed. So what kind of challenges does that give you for Africa Osh to try to pull together, you know, these regional events and collaborations?
Yes, I share the same feeling like Danielle. So the big difficulty the big difficulty for us was to postpone.
I think we may have frozen Tomas. Let's give him a second and see if he comes back. But yeah, they did have to postpone Africa Osh this year, which was supposed to be hosted by Mboa Lab in Cameroon. And that was a discussion we had about BioSummit. The question is, do we postpone BioSummit? Or do we go forward with trying to pivot to a virtual? And how much work was virtual going to be? Does it even work as a virtual? These were all questions we had. And it's, you know, a big question for how do we do that, et cetera. So I think we just got you back, Tomas.
Yes, so can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. You're no longer frozen.
Yes, okay. So that was our big difficulty, because it's very important for us to meet in person, because some people need to do workshop, to meet people, to talk with them, to see and to understand that people are not just the name behind the paper or behind internet. They can talk with them and contact them easily. They are so open. So so it was very difficult for us to postpone the event. But inside the community, we try to do something, because we are a cluster of lab, many distributed across Africa, and in each country where we have lab partners, some event took place. And even Thomas Landrain also through Juggle try to support all this initiative by gathering or helping people to connect through the Juggle platform. Gameli Adzao, one of our colleagues, to organize a kind of online event, virtual event around COVID-19 to show all the initiative going in place across Africa. So that is why what we did, but we are still thinking to do our physical event maybe at the beginning of next year. We are still waiting. But one thing very important for us and what we are thinking about now is, because COVID-19 maybe will go, but what are you going to do with the post-COVID-19 period? How can we, how Africa OSH can prepare the continent to face such issue if it happens in the next time or in the future? So that is also something we are thinking about, yes. So that's a big challenge to think forward, yes.
Yeah, I mean, because I've only started thinking about that. What does the world look like post-COVID, and what challenges is that going to bring us? I think there is a lot coming and the next year, and the more we can get aligned and create these networks and partnerships is going to be important, because there's going to be a whole new set of challenges that roll out in the world post-COVID. Economic challenges, political challenges, resource challenges. And speaking of resources, I think that leads us to Jenny. You know, your work is amazing, but one of the questions I have for you is, we've got a lot of people on this call who are not in those developing areas. What can we do to help partner with your work to help support these enzyme collections, et cetera? And how can people really get activated into supporting these kind of initiatives, whether it's yours or anybody else's?
So if you have access to a lab, we have a lot of enzymes that we can't test. So for context, we have a fantastic team at Mboa lab in Cameroon. There are just 2 active in the lab researchers working on this project. There are some others working on others, and I have a lab team in Cambridge of 3 people. So if you have a lab and you'd be interested to try out some of the enzymes, particularly the collection that will launch at the end of this month, it contains a whole bunch of pre-assembled expression cassettes, but also a lot of parts that you could swap in. So we're really keen on finding partners who can take those and, you know, contribute data back to the project, tell us if different combinations work, because then we can ship those as a full cassette. So there is definitely a kind of role for lab scientists. If you're keen to help out, we really want to curate that collection and get the data in so that we're pushing out stuff that we know works. And right now we don't know that it works in all combinations. If you're not in a lab, or that's not your thing, I think, you know, it's the coordination piece. I think that like Thomas has done so well with Joggle, and we also have a presence on Joggle and have kind of been working through the platform as well. It's really having a coordinating role. And so, for example, with ReClone, we've had several labs in Latin America that have started to produce things, and Fernand and Natalia, who are on this call, have done an amazing job of coordinating regionally as well to get those labs, make sure they have the DNA, make sure they're kind of coordinating with protocols, and then posting those protocols on protocols.io. And kind of that is amazing, because, you know, it takes a whole group of people to do that. And I think Tom has exemplified that really well with kind of, you know, that massive scaling up in Joggle and the number of people that had to come together and coordinate their work. And so that's really, I think, where we're at the moment. And it's challenging. I think the tension of like, what can you do, what can you realistically do short term versus what can you do in the longer term, and how to kind of like add that value without completely burning out and damaging your existing projects is a real tension, particularly in this kind of time of change. And I think one of the kind of good things about this community is how agile we are, and we've seen that again through Joggle and all the initiatives that have come together over the last few months. Since July, I've been chairing a working group of the UN Technology Access partnership. So this is a sort of multi-agency initiative to look at local manufacturing of open source tools for COVID. And I think, you know, we've done certain work that is necessary and couldn't have been done perhaps in this community, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that like, that is not the right place to do it, and this community can move forward that. So I think it's kind of, you know, what can you do at a particular time? So if anyone has any time on their hands, we'll be interested. There's a role for everyone, so get in touch. But I think that's one thing I would say in terms of global collaborations and organizing throughout the BioSummit is just the sheer speed and dedication and rapidity and agility that this community has shown. And having now been embedded in other projects which have a really long-term focus, and you have to, but it's frustrating, right? These things these things take time, and so just kudos to everybody here who span up stuff so rapidly to really get impacts and get action out there into the community so quickly, because it's hard to do.
Yeah. So I think what we're going to do, we've got about 10 minutes left. This has been, very inspiring to me personally, because I know all of you and all of your work, and I follow all of your work and your projects. But I want to give this folks on the call here in the room a chance to answer some questions. So let's get some questions for everybody. I saw a great question for Jenny in the chat, because she was the last one talking. Marilla Costa, so she asks, how is this sustainable? How is the bill for all these free enzymes happening? So how are you able to do this amazing sounding project?
Well, the free enzymes are coming from Free Genes at Stanford, who had a large grant to send them out. So this is not the freeness will not continue indefinitely. So get your orders in quickly. But yeah, I mean, the hope is eventually that these people will be with enough people that we can just kind of sustain the collection as a distributed kind of group of people that have the collection and can pass it on to their colleagues and friends regionally. We're also, of course, going to work with AdGene and have a lot of these parts of the collection deposited in AdGene. So AdGene's a not-for-profit repository of plasmids, which does cost some money, but the money kind of keeps them keeping the quality control high, keeping things moving. And so, and they're also always usually amenable to people who genuinely need some support to get access to things. They have various kind of support schemes. So that's the goal, is to have it with AdGene, who just have that infrastructure, but also have a more distributed network of regional nodes, and particularly with ReClone, Fanan and others in Latin America, like Natalia, have been acting as these hubs, so that we don't have to post it all the way over the world. And that's basically where we are. But the project that we've been running so far has been funded by the Shuttleworth Foundation, who have been absolutely amazing as funders over the last few years. I'm coming to the end of my fellowship with them, but effectively they've supported all of the work in putting the collection together, the establishment of Mboa lab, and kind of really, and I think to go back to something Thomas said about Joggle, that putting the processes in place is really time consuming and hard work, but it's totally necessary. And if you try and do one thing, but put the processes in place to make it scalable, it probably takes you twice as long to do that one thing, but you have to do it in the hope that things will get easier later on. And so that's really Mboa lab, and Thomas Mboa is on the call as well. And we've been working very hard to try and make sure that everything we've done there is putting in place all the SOPs and the kind of like the know-how to move to another manufacturing node and hopefully set it up half as quickly. in half the time that we managed in Cameroon. And yeah, so I think it's going to be a mixed model for sustainability going forwards. And of course, if anybody knows of sources, people that may be interested to support this work, that's fantastic. But it's kind of, I think there's a nice book that was recently published called Exit to Community, which is a kind of, what's the end. There's also an amazing article in the Stanford Social Innovation Review called What's Your End Game, which anyone who's running projects like this should look at. But yeah, exit to community is basically planning for your project to eventually not need you at all, and to exit to a broader community governance model. And so we are trying to kind of bear that in mind as well, as we move forward.
Yeah, I think that's all true. That's all true. So I do think we have a couple questions in here, but people are getting so chatty. If people want to raise their hands if they have a question, that's a great way to tag you as well, because the chat's just scrolling on by. Oh, Patrick. So if we can unmute Patrick so he can ask a question.
Yeah, Jenny, I was just looking through your list of promoters that have 35 different fluorescent and chromogenic promoters. We should pool our forces and get all of those incompatible E. coli strains, and then distribute the entire strain collection for use for our agar art.
Love it. Let's talk.
Yeah, let's get like the larger ACS community, the Microbiology Society, etc., knowing about these projects. I think that there's a lot of opportunity here for science communication because even amongst our community, not everybody knows about all these projects, which is why we need to highlight them at a conference like this so people know where they can tie in. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So do we have any questions for our other speakers, for Daniel, Tomas, or Tomas? You'll have to let us know. Let's see, and I'll let Jenny take any questions for her to the Slack. One question I have for Daniel Dominguez is, how can we get more people tied into AllBiotech, or what lessons would you give on pulling a region together to somebody, say if they wanted to pull something like Asia Pacific together or Europe together?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Maria. Yeah, we are really open to collaborations around the world. I think what we lack is to go global, because our first step was to create this community, and I think that should be the first step for all the other regions, especially the ones with developing countries, to get together people and to create this community with fraternity, with safe spaces. And I think we need to be like really tight and have a close community in order to be able to open the community afterwards. So I think we've been facing some challenges here, and I think that's the same thing for all developing countries, that we have a lot of people, of resentful people with the developed world. We have this issue that Spain conquered us for 300 years, and that France invaded us for some cakes in the past century, that the US and Trump has been bullying us since ever. But we need to forget that. I mean, we need to be different and to build a really global community and to stop being nationalist. I mean, I'm Mexican, I love being Mexican, but I'm also a world citizen. And I think we all need to see each other as world citizens and as human beings. And with this in mind, we can create regional communities that go global in some times. And we have a saying here in Mexico that is, a río revuelto, ventaja de pescadores, that for all not Spanish speakers, what really means is that in the middle of the chaos, you can find a lot of opportunities. But we need to be smart and to work together, to collaborate, to cooperate, to find that kind of opportunities. And answering to your question, what a world post-COVID look like, I'm really optimistic. I think we have a bright future here. And if we are smart enough, we can find a lot of opportunities to build regional communities and then go global.
Yeah. Since Tomas Landrain is going to have a really long session this afternoon, Tomas Mboa, any just real quick in under a minute, last thoughts on building global communities?
So I will just use one word, is to say that we need passion to do what we are doing. So that is the key thing we need, because if you are not passionate about what you are doing, I'm not sure that you are going to do a lot of things. So from when you have passionate leader with a good vision, they can build all kind of collaboration, and they can bring all the country or the continent or stakeholder together to build great things. So that is my final word, if you want.
And I will let Tomas Landrain have any final words, and then you can always pick him up in the long joggle session we're going to be doing.
Thanks. What I'm going to say is very simple. You know, if you have some time or some projects, please have a visit to app.jogo.io. See if there is anything interesting to you. If you can create teams, if you can create collaborations. It's just the very beginning. I've seen a question in the chat if we were going to focus on other subjects than COVID-19 or such as climate change, and yes, absolutely. we are open science focused. So actually we're working very hard on a new program that is going to be dedicated to Africa. And so how to support communities and projects in Africa that are doing open science outside normal institutions. And also working on other kind of programs. So if you're a community lab, and you're looking at a way to help us build this global ecosystem, obviously the global community BioSummit is one big piece of that. But also please join us in building a better juggle for everyone. So we are very community centered. So you're welcome. We have a platform. We have a Slack. Looking forward to seeing you all here.
Yeah, and we're going to put links to everybody's organization so you can all get connected to this in the Slack. It'll be in the notes. So thank you to our speakers. Thank you, Thomas Landrain, Daniel Dominguez, Jenny Molloy, Thomas Mboa. Really hope we can continue building even more amazing global collaborations because our world needs them. We desperately need these networks and these solutions and to enable people into leadership to help solve things. So thank you all again. So let's give some snaps, people. Come on. Show us some global love. Thank you, guys.